Religion is based on scripture written by men thousands of years ago. Those beliefs can't be changed or challenged. They're fixed.
In science, great thinkers have written things very long ago, but every generation improves upon them. The words are not holy. Einstein is a brilliant man, but he's not our God. He's one step in the evolution of knowledge, but we always continue to step forward.
You know, a scientist once asked the Dalai Lama, what would you do if something scientific disproved your religious beliefs? And he said, after much thought, I would look at all the papers, I'd take a look at all the research and really try to understand things. And in the end, if it was clear that the scientific evidence disproved my spiritual beliefs, I would change my beliefs.
It's a good answer.
Hello, you're welcome to another beautiful episode of Beyond Indoctrination. Yeah, it's been quite a while, but we are back again in full force. And without much ado, let's get going. You know, the concept of science and religion is very interesting. They are just the two most important fields if you really want to understand the world and how it works and how it functions. You can't know much about the world if you don't really understand the theology of things, and you can't really understand how things objectively work if you don't also really understand science. So science and religion are mutually exclusive, and they can walk hand in hand, and they can also work hand in hand. But sometimes, you know, science is a philosophy of knowing, it's a philosophy of searching and making hypotheses and drawing conclusions. But religion doesn't work like that. That is not how religion actually functions. Religion is a philosophy of belief where you would have to subscribe to a certain religion. Then you can believe everything that this religion you subscribe to actually states. So it means that all of them have their set of beliefs, and all of them actually accept it because the Holy Book says it. Most of these claims do not have scientific backings. However, there are some that have some scientific backings to the claims that are asserted. So those that have scientific backings, you would find that most religious scholars use these scientific findings or scientific conclusions to be able to support and back their religious claims. If you take any religious book, whether the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, every religious book out there, you realize that it all makes a set of assertions. It all makes set of claims about the world, most about how the world was formed, most about how things came to be, and some even about how our biology even works. So, yes, people who read the Upanishads actually believe that everything in their book is divinely inspired and should be consented as truth. And it is not different from people who read the Torah, like the believers of Judaism, the Jews. So we all have our set of beliefs, but the problem comes in when all the scholars of this religious institution decide to use science, which is a general, or let me say neutral form of looking at the world. When they use these scientific processes to cement and amplify their religious claims.
So these are people who are apparently require data to support their faith. I find that odd, right? Because then it's not faith, right? I mean, if you have religious faith, then whatever anyone says about the world wouldn't matter to you. If it does matter to you, then that's a different kind of contract that you're taking out on information. And that contract is, there could be data out there that would conflict with your religious philosophy, and then you'd have to go along with it. But that's not what actually happens. There's a pretense that data matters, and then they filter it, reinterpret it, ignore parts of it, slice and dice it so that it all fits in to the religious philosophy. So it requires blinders in order to make that happen.
Your religious book says something, and whether now or later, science has figured out that, okay, this is how things really work, and it is true according to your religious book, then these people tend to, blow the alarm that, oh, this is true according to my book. And look, science has even figured it out. Okay, science has even found that this is true. So most people use science as a way to back the claims their religious book has asserted. But the problem here is that, what about instances where science disagree with some parts of your holy book? We actually like the idea that our religious book about some 400 years or 600 years or somewhere thousands of years actually said something about the world that no one knew until it has been recently figured out. So some way, somehow, it is divine. But this same book also says things that are not also true according to the same science.
I really find it highly amusing. It's very interesting that it is in religion, it is in spirituality. The moment they find something in science which is compatible, they start respecting science. They say, look, now even the science has accepted it. But the moment science is opposing them, then it is not credible at all. And it is the history.
So it is kind of paradoxical, or I don't even know how to put it, whether it is ironic, because you have instances where Islamic scholars like Dr. Zakir Naik would make Quranic assertions and back it up with science. Okay, but in that same book or in that same scripture, there are instances where science has proven the contrary of what has been written. How do you make up for all these ones? So this was actually really seen inside the debate between Dr. Zakir Naik and Dr. William Campbell. So Dr. Zak actually even pointed out that according to the Bible, plants were created before the sun in the creation order. That was plants created before the sun, and then that can't be the ideal format, because plants actually need sunlight to produce their own food through the process of photosynthesis that we now know through science. So whatever be the case, it is actually scientifically erroneous or scientifically wrong for the Bible to claim that plants were created before the sun. And then according to the Quran, the sun was created before plants. So if you think about it, according to his analogy, the Quran was right in that order. And if there are books that are in contrast, it means that theirs will be right because it follows the scientific process of photosynthesis. Perfect. But come to think of it, in this analogy, we both agree with his scientific, observation of how plant processes work. But according to the same science, the planet itself can't exist even without the sun. So we have you that is claiming that, okay, the sun was created before plants, but scientifically, the sun even existed before the planet. Every star exists before planets are formed around it. No planet can exist without its parent star. In fact, it is the star that forms first before all planets are actually formed around it. If you come to the religious part, you realize that the planet actually existed, and this sun was also seen as one of the bodies that were created into the sky, like the moon and the stars. Okay, but actually, our sun itself is one of the stars.
If you knew nothing about science and you read, say, the Bible, the Old Testament, which in Genesis is an account of nature. That's what that is. And I said to you, give me your description of the natural world based only on this. You would say the world was created in 6 days and that stars are just little points of light, much lesser than the sun. And in fact, they can fall out of the sky. One of the signs that the second coming is that the stars will fall out of the sky and land on Earth. So to even write that means you don't know what those things are. You have no concept of what the actual universe is. So everybody who tried to make proclamations about the physical universe based on Bible passages got the wrong answer. So what happened was, when science discovers things and you want to stay religious, or you want to continue to believe that the Bible is unerring, what you would do is you would say, well, let me go back to the Bible and reinterpret it. Then you'd say things like, oh, they didn't really mean that literally. They meant that figuratively. So this whole sort of reinterpretation of how figurative the poetic passages of the Bible are came after science showed that this is not how things unfolded.
So it's actually very complicated when these people actually ignore this basic astronomy data and then would also use a science that is in biology terms to defend their religious claims or their religious assertions. So if you want to understand the general outlook of the world through science, then you should make all things available in your knowledge. You don't just pick and choose which scientific facts agree with your religious book and then you agree with it. And then when the science don't agree with your religion, then the science is not credible or science is not legitimate about that information. That is where the confusion also sets in.
Look at what the Quran says in chapter 21, verse number 30. Mr. Carey, you may want to write that down. Do the disbelievers not see that the earth and sky was once one and we opened it? And we made everything living out of water. That's a biological fact today, which is a recent discovery. Who could say that 1400 years ago? That's the evidence.
Someone did say that 2,500 years ago. His name was Thales. He argued that all life originated from water. This belief was a cosmological view in ancient Greece. It wasn't commonly held, but it was certainly advocated. Prophet Muhammad is stating a belief that was actually advocated hundreds of years before him by someone who wasn't a prophet. So you can't claim that he was prophesying that all life is created out of water if non-prophets already advocated such a view.
If a person says enough things, if you throw enough spaghetti against the wall, some of it's going to stick. And if you dig through any ancient book, you're going to find some things that look prophetic, and you're going to go, wow, look at what he said. Why didn't God reveal to Muhammad the germ theory of disease? Wouldn't that have been a useful thing for him to have told us about?
One major problem with this religious claims and this religious creationist story is the idea that the 6 days of creation is either a literal 6 days or a figurative 6 days. So there are a school of thought that believes that the 6 days that was asserted by the holy books and the resting on the 7th day, it's not a literal 6 days like 24 hours, 24 hours, 24 hours, because in the first place, there is no hours.
God created the heavens and the earth in 6 literal 24-hour days. The intent of Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2 is to show the readers that God is the creator, all-powerful, and he was able to create all that he did, all of heaven, all of earth, all the hosts thereof, in just 6 literal 24-hour days.
Can't be day 4 because the concept of day in the original Hebrew doesn't mean day.
What's your short answer to how you reconcile the Bible saying 7 days?
What is a literal day for God? Is it 24 hours?
I mean, throughout the rest of Scripture, though, it seems like it's pointing to a day like we're used to.
A literal 24-hour period. I would disagree.
And if the sun was not created on the first day, or the sun was not created before everything commenced, how do you detect day and night? So all these questions come up after science discovers how day and night is formed and how something is defined as day and how something is defined as night, then it means that the sun is an instrumental part of a day. That is a modern day understanding. But when you come to understand the definition, if the sun wasn't actually created on the first day, then what do we define as day? Now, that aside, if you are saying that it is 6 days and he rested on the 7th, is the 6 days literal 6 days like we have it, or is figurative? Is it a long period of time that has been defined as 6 days, like more like a day being thousands of years and being referred to as one, or a day is what we now know today as a day? So this, even among theologians, has been a problem, that they don't really understand where we draw the line.
Genesis says that God created the world in 6 days, but were these 6 days literal 24-hour days? Well, some people believe that each day represents 1,000 years, because 2 Peter 3:8 says, "One day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day." But this verse is out of context, because it doesn't say that one day with God is 1,000 years, but as 1,000 years, and it would be inconsistent to treat the days of creation as 1,000 years, but not all the other days in the Bible. And in Genesis 1, the days are referred to as evening and morning, which disproves the idea that a day was just figurative or allegorical, because each day was a literal 24-hour period.
Some believe it is literal, yes, 6 days like 6 days, whereas with that you would have to account for what the definition of a day is. Even the first 2 days or the days before the sun was created, how will you account for that as a day? And those who actually believe that, well, it was not a 6 days like we know it today, it is actually 6 days figuratively, which means that it is periods of time, which would be a lot of years in our modern day calendar. So even with this, there is a problem among the theology, and it is all brought about the understanding of science we have of the world today. If science discovers something, then religious people would have to go back to their religious book to reassess it. And then if it matches or it agrees with any part of their religious doctrine, then it means that they will use that information that has been stated by science to defend their religion, or to actually trumpet the idea that their belief system is the best or is the right one for everyone to accept, because there is a scientific backing to something their holy book has asserted.
Do you think that the universe had a beginning?
I would suspect yes.
How did the writers of the book of Genesis know that?
The scientific method has also revealed to us that the earth was formed much later than the sun. The Old Testament account tells us that it was the other way around. So it got that bit wrong.
All right. So we're, yes, the Bible is not.
So sometimes it gets things right. Sometimes it gets things wrong. You know.
The Bible is not a science. It's not listing out a scientific.
Well, now hold on a second. You can't now move the goalpost, especially if you're still going to miss. Is it telling us how the universe scientifically formed or not?
It is stating a conclusion, not a process. It's not telling you how the universe was formed.
Right. It also doesn't tell us how the sun was formed, but it tells us that it was formed after the earth was. On what day is it that God makes the sun? Day 4, something around there.
Obviously, it can't be day 4 because the concept of day in the original Hebrew doesn't mean day.
Sure, but day 4 comes after day 1, right?
Well, it's describing obviously epochs or periods.
Yeah, yes. So actually it's much worse, because now the sun is created much later than the earth was.
And to even add, the Hindu religion, or with the Indians, long before, they've made so many claims about astronomy mostly that has also been proven right by modern day science, of which Carl Sagan and co had actually figured out themselves that there were so many claims in the Bhagavad Gita or in the Upanishads that has been proven to have astronomy related informations that has been proven right in modern day. Not all, some of them are very outrageous and some are very wrong, but you have some that you will wonder, how did they know? So it is not only exclusive to Islam or Christianity. As Dan Becker said, if you threw macaroni or spaghetti against a wall, surely some will stick. It doesn't mean that it is supposed to. Meaning, if you make a lot of outrageous claims, you will eventually find out that some are true. And that is like the whole idea he was trying to establish with that fact. Not only was the Quran right about the order between the sun and the plants being created, that the plants were actually created after the sun to be able to obtain sunlight to produce its own food, as stated by the Quran. Yes, there are other Quranic verses that science has proven right, and some including the fetus of a baby. Yes, mostly on embryology, how the Quran has been able to describe it and how accurate it is using modern day scientific methods. Before the 1400s, when Islam, the modern day Islam, was invented, there were a lot of scientific findings already. And even in the Middle East itself, there were a lot of enlightened people. And that is how the civilization of the world actually commenced from Egypt and those parts of the world. So realistically, those people had some information. And coming back to like the 600 years time, or 600 years ago, you know that most things have been discovered, and we had a general overview of the world already. You can pardon other religions that they did not have a lot of scientific accuracies as compared to the Quran. And so yeah, we can account for that difference as well. Yeah, so as I said earlier, science do not really care about who is making a discovery or what. Science do not really care about your belief as well. When something is true, it doesn't matter whether Islam has spoken about it, whether Islam hasn't, or whether it's against Islam, or whether the Bible has spoken about it, or who it is supporting and who it is not supporting. Scientific findings are actually figured out by people. They go on peer review, they go and scrutinize the information, they go and test it, and then they figure out that this is true, not based on feelings or emotions, based on facts and evidence. And then we can consent to it as true. So basically, it doesn't matter if your religion has spoken about it. Scientists do not wake up and every day and be like, okay, and we are finding out this, and then when we find out it will support Islam or it will support the Bible, so we are not doing it. No, that is not how it works. Science do not really care who comes out with the finding. If you like, your head pastor today can come and tell us that I prayed and then I realized that this is how the universe came to be. We don't care whether you saw it in your dream or you feel some God came to tell you. What we have to do is to scrutinize the information. It is true not because you are a pastor or you are a monk or you are a malam. It doesn't matter. All that it has to happen is that it agrees with evidence, it is repeatable, and then we can scrutinize it to a conclusion. And if we find out that whatever you came to tell us, whether by metaphysical definitions or whether you actually reasoned it or you learnt it, no one really cares. You are earning a Nobel Prize for discovering how the universe came to be. So every scientist across the world would dump the idea of Big Bang because it's actually a theory, and then we would pick up anything that we've tested and figured out that it is true. So the idea is that it doesn't care about individuals, it doesn't care about your feeling, it doesn't care about your personal belief. If science make a proclamation and it agrees with your religion, you can take it and do whatever you want to do. But if it do not agree and you would want to sample out and look through and pick which ones agree with your personal philosophies, with your political philosophy, or with your religious philosophy, and then you want to believe which one suits you, that is fair enough. But truths are true no matter who or what you are, and science do not care which religion it supports and which religion it doesn't support. And mind you, one thing is that you can't have all the ideas in one field of science. So a holistic understanding of embryology, as I talked about, you understand astronomy, you understand like a lot of the fields, including cosmology and everything, would give a broader idea of how things are happening. So when you look at something, you can form an academic and enlightened opinion about things without actually having to learn it from one person. Because when you listen to one person, you know that you are listening to a neuroscientist. When you listen to a neuroscientist and you're listening to an astrophysicist, then you realize that certain things you just have to connect the dots of the things you are learning from the individual fields, whether through philosophy and all the fields of science that you have accumulated. So certain things you look at it and be like, okay, so this can't be true because of this, and then you can bring information and data from all the fields you've been studying, and it doesn't happen overnight. You'd have to be working at it. So it doesn't take a day. You don't just get up one day and be like you understand things. It takes years and years of looking into it and then speaking to people. You make better opinions and you make better and educated guesses on informations and data. One lucky thing about our generation today is that we have all the tools and we have all the materials at our disposal to be able to search and look for whatever data in the world that we would want to receive and we would want to obtain. Sometimes you would talk to people and you realize that they have all the abilities to be able to know some things that they do not, and it is not because they don't, but because they are uninterested. Yeah, so most of our ignorance today is deliberate ignorance, and we want to look at the world through a single point of view, and that is not how things always, and that is not how things realistically work. You would need to look at things from diverse angle. You need to listen to people a lot. You need to speak to people a lot, and then you need to understand that, well, some things do not only have to resonate with how you were brought up or how you thought it should be.
Science actually is based on ignorance. Science is an invention that created modern science, was not a discovery of any piece of knowledge in geography or astronomy, Copernicus or Darwin, no. The big scientific revolution which launched modern science was a discovery of ignorance. For thousands of years, people thought they know everything. That some holy book or some holy person or whatever, they know everything. We don't need to learn anything new, we know everything. And science began with when some humans admitted we don't know everything. There is no book in the world which has all the answers. There is no person in the world that knows everything. And now that we have the courage and honesty to admit our ignorance, now we can start investigating. And that's science.
Thank you for your time. And thank you for watching another beautiful episode of Beyond Indoctrination. Stay positive, keep learning, keep opening up, keep talking to people. You can follow me on all social media handles. You can DM if you have questions, and if you want us to talk about a topic, or if you want us to discuss something on this podcast, you can DM me on all the handles that I've shared the link below in the description. You can pick it up and hit me up so we can talk. Yeah, it's been nice having your time. I really appreciate it, and hoping to see you again very soon on another wonderful episode of Beyond Indoctrination. And as usual, peace out.